Alien catgirls were sold for meat. He spent his last credits to buy them. Interstellar black markets were the festering wounds of the galaxy, places where morality went to die, and credits talked louder than conscience. Captain Jack Harlow knew this better than most, which was precisely why he avoided them like the Andromeda Plague. Yet here he was, striding through the crowded bazaar on Nexus 6, a lawless asteroid colony on the fringes of Terran Alliance space. "Goddamn waste of time," he muttered, shouldering past a hulking draconian merchant. The alien hissed at him, but Jack ignored it. He hadn't wanted to come here. Hell, he'd fought tooth and nail against it. But when your ship's atmospheric regulator fails in deep space and the nearest authorized parts dealer is 3 weeks away, principles become luxuries you can't afford. The market sprawled through a massive cavern carved into the asteroid's core. Flickering neon signs cast an eerie glow over stalls, selling everything from contraband weapons to exotic narcotics. The air reeked of alien spices, unwashed bodies, and the unmistakable metallic tang of fear. Jack's communicator buzzed. He tapped the device nestled behind his ear. "Tell me you found the part, Captain," came the voice of his engineer, Mac. "Still looking," Jack replied, scanning the maze of vendors. "This place is a shit show." "Well, hurry up. We've got maybe 18 hours before life support starts getting creative with our oxygen levels." "Copy that." Jack cut the connection and quickened his pace. The sooner he found the regulator, the sooner he could leave this cesspit behind. He'd already passed 3 slave auctions, each one making his stomach turn more violently than the last. The Terran Alliance had outlawed slavery centuries ago, but out here, on the edge of civilized space, humanity's laws held about as much weight as a feather in a hurricane. He was about to turn down another corridor when something caught his eye. A heavy metal cage with a massive lock, tucked away in a shadowy corner. Inside, huddled together, were 3 slender figures with bright blue skin marked by faint silver speckles. Their large yellow eyes with feline pupils darted nervously around the market. Small pointed ears sat atop their heads, twitching with each new sound. Jack froze mid-step. They were Felidans, a rare species from the Outer Rim. Their bodies were barely covered by simple brown rags that did nothing to hide their delicate features or the fear etched across their faces. A crude sign hung from the cage. "Prime meat, exotic taste, sold by weight." "Fuck me," Jack whispered, bile rising in his throat. The Felidans were being sold as food. Even in this godforsaken place, that was a new low. A bulbous alien with mottled green skin and 4 arms stood beside the cage, barking at passers-by in a guttural language. Jack's universal translator picked up fragments. Tender flesh, rare delicacy. Special price for whole set. One of the Felidans, slightly taller than the others, with striking silver markings across her cheeks, looked directly at Jack. There was no hope in those eyes, just a resignation. Something snapped inside him. Before he could think better of it, Jack was marching toward the cage. The 4-armed merchant turned to him, multiple eyes blinking in rapid succession. "Interested in premium meat, human?" the alien gurgled through a translator. "Very tasty, very tender. Special price for you." Jack's hand instinctively moved to the blaster holstered at his hip, but he stopped himself. Starting a firefight would only get him killed, and wouldn't help the Felidans. "How much?" he asked instead, his voice tight. The merchant named a price that made Jack's eyes widen. It was nearly all the credits he had, including what he needed for the atmospheric regulator. "Too much," Jack countered. "They're half-starved. Probably diseased too." The merchant's upper arms crossed defensively. "No disease. Prime specimens from royal bloodline." "Bullshit," Jack spat. "I'll give you half that." What followed was 15 minutes of the most aggressive haggling Jack had ever engaged in. The merchant was relentless, but Jack was desperate. Not for exotic meat, but to wipe that smug look off the bastard's face and get those girls out of that cage. Finally, they reached an agreement. It would cost Jack every credit he had, leaving nothing for the regulator. It was suicide, plain and simple. His ship would become a floating coffin within days. He did it anyway. The merchant deactivated the lock with a series of complicated gestures. The cage door swung open with a rusty creak. "All yours, human," the merchant said, pocketing Jack's credit chip. "Enjoy your feast." The Feladians cowered at the back of the cage, trembling. The tallest one positioned herself in front of the others. Her eyes narrowed in defiance despite her fear. Jack crouched down to their level, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. "I'm getting you out of here." Confusion flickered across their features. The tall one spoke, her voice melodic despite the fear threading through it. "You not eat us?" Jack's heart clenched. Nobody's eating anybody. I'm taking you somewhere safe." He extended his hand slowly. The Feladian stared at it for a long moment before cautiously reaching out. Her fingers were slender, with retractable claws currently sheathed, a sign of trust. "My name is Jack Harlow. I'm the captain of a ship called the Horizon." "I am Laura," she replied, her accent giving the words a musical quality. She gestured to the others. "My sisters, Alira and Mita." The other two Feladians nodded slightly, still wary. "Can you walk?" Jack asked. Laura nodded. "Yes, they not feed much, but we strong." "Good, stay close to me. Don't make eye contact with anyone." As they emerged from the cage, Jack removed his jacket and draped it over Laura's shoulders. It was far too big for her, but it provided some dignity. He wished he had more clothing to offer the others. "Where we go?" Laura asked as they began moving through the market. Jack hesitated. He had no regulator, no credits, and now 3 refugees under his protection. His ship was running out of breathable air, and he was in the heart of a black market where helping slaves escape could get him killed. "Home," he said finally. "We're going home." He just had no idea how they'd get there alive. Jack led the Feladians through the winding corridors of the market, his mind racing. Without the atmospheric regulator, the Horizon would become a floating coffin within 18 hours. His crew, his family, depended on him. And he'd just spent their last hope on a moral stand. He didn't regret it. Looking at the 3 frightened aliens trailing behind him, he knew he'd make the same choice again. But that didn't solve their immediate problem. "Captain?" Laura's melodic voice pulled him from his thoughts. "You're troubled." Jack slowed his pace, allowing the sisters to catch up. "We need a part for my ship. Without it, we can't breathe." Alira, the smallest of the 3 with delicate silver patterns resembling constellations across her shoulders, spoke up. "You spend all credits on us? No credits for part?" The guilt in her voice made Jack's chest tighten. "Don't worry about that. I'll figure something out." They turned a corner and Jack spotted it. Grendel's Salvage, the shop he'd been heading to before his detour. Through the grimy window, he could see the atmospheric regulator sitting on a display shelf, taunting him. "Wait here," he instructed the sisters, positioning them in a shadowy alcove. "Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. I'll be right back." Mita, who had remained silent until now, grabbed his wrist. Her touch was surprisingly warm, her yellow eyes intense. "Dangerous?" "Everything's dangerous here," Jack admitted, "but I don't have a choice." He approached the shop, mind calculating angles, exits, and potential witnesses. Jack wasn't a thief. He was a soldier turned traitor. But desperate times called for desperate measures. The shop owner, a bulky Taurian with 4 arms and a permanent scowl, barely looked up when Jack entered. Perfect. Jack casually browsed, working his way toward the regulator while keeping his movements natural. Just as his fingers brushed the device, a meaty hand clamped down on his shoulder. "Not for touching?" the Taurian growled. "For buying," Jack forced a smile. "How much?" The price named was astronomical, triple what it should be. "Look," Jack began, "I'm in a tight spot." "Not my problem," the Taurian interrupted. "Pay or leave." Jack's hand inched toward his blaster. "One shot, grab the part, run like hell." A commotion outside drew both their attention. Jack's heart sank as he spotted the 4-armed merchant from earlier, gesticulating wildly while speaking to market security. The Feladians were nowhere to be seen. "Shit," Jack muttered, abandoning subtlety. He shoved the Taurian aside, snatched the regulator, and bolted for the door. Alarms blared as he burst into the corridor. Security drones descended from hidden compartments in the ceiling, their targeting systems locking onto him. "Stop, thief!" the Taurian bellowed. Jack ducked into a side passage, regulator clutched to his chest. He needed to find the Philidians and get back to the horizon. Fast. A slender blue hand shot out from a ventilation shaft, startling him. Lura's face appeared in the opening. "In here," she whispered urgently. "Quick!" Jack didn't hesitate. He squeezed into the narrow shaft, finding himself in tight quarters with all three sisters, their bodies pressed against his in the confined space, warm and trembling with adrenaline. "How did you?" "We good climbers," Mita explained, her breath hot against his neck. "Good hiders, too." "Market security looking for blue females," Alira added. "Meat seller, very angry." Jack nodded grimly. "I've got the part, but now we're all fugitives. We need to get back to my ship." Lura's eyes gleamed in the dim light. "We help. No shortcuts. Follow." The sisters moved through the ventilation system with astonishing grace, their bodies flexible and agile in ways humans simply weren't. Jack struggled to keep up, his broader frame barely fitting through some of the narrower sections. As they crawled, he couldn't help but notice the sisters' feline grace, the way their muscles moved beneath their blue skin, the elegant curve of their spines. Despite their ordeal, there was something undeniably beautiful about them. Lura glanced back, catching his gaze. A knowing smile curved her lips, revealing slightly pointed canines. Jack felt his face flush and quickly looked away. "Sorry," he muttered. "I didn't mean to stare." "Is okay," Lura replied, her voice softer than before. "You save us. Can look." "On our world," Alira added, "Savior has special place. High honor." Mita nodded in agreement. "Very high honor." There was something in their tones that made Jack's pulse quicken. A cultural misunderstanding, surely. He needed to focus on escape, not on the way Lura's eyes lingered on him or how Alira's hand occasionally brushed against his arm. They emerged from the ventilation system into a maintenance corridor. The docking bay was just ahead, but so were a dozen security drones and several armed guards. "Damn it," Jack hissed. "We'll never make it through." "We help," Lura insisted. She exchanged glances with her sisters, some unspoken communication passing between them. "Philidians have gifts." Before Jack could ask what she meant, the sisters began to change. Their pupils expanded until their eyes were almost entirely black. The silver markings on their skin began to glow faintly, and their movements became even more fluid, almost hypnotic. "What are you?" "Distraction," Lura explained. "You run when guards look at us. Get to ship. Start engines." "I'm not leaving you behind," Jack protested. Alira touched his arm, her fingers lingering. "Not leaving. Following. Trust." Against his better judgment, Jack nodded. The sisters slipped from their hiding place, moving into the open with a grace that seemed almost supernatural. The guards noticed immediately, but instead of raising their weapons, they stood transfixed. Jack realized the Philidians were emitting some kind of pheromone, a natural defense mechanism that temporarily mesmerized predators. He seized the opportunity, sprinting toward the horizon with the regulator clutched to his chest. As he reached the ship's ramp, he looked back to see the sisters breaking from their trance-inducing display, darting between the still-dazed guards with incredible speed. They were magnificent, and for the first time since he'd found them in that cage, Jack wondered exactly what he'd gotten himself into. Jack reached the horizon's entry ramp just as the docking bay erupted into chaos. The Philidian sisters darted between the confused guards with supernatural agility, their blue forms blurring as they sprinted toward the ship. "Mac!" Jack shouted into his communicator. "Fire up the engines! We're leaving now!" "About damn time," his engineer replied. "Did you get the—" "Got it! Just be ready to fly." The ship's engines roared to life as Jack stood at the ramp, blaster drawn. The sisters were halfway across the bay when alarms began blaring. Security drones descended from the ceiling, targeting lasers, painting red dots on the fleeing Philidians. "Run!" Jack yelled, providing covering fire. The sisters reached the ramp in a synchronized leap that defied human capabilities. Jack slammed the emergency close button as soon as they were aboard, and the horizon's ramp sealed with a pneumatic hiss. "Go! Go! Go!" he shouted into the comm. The ship lurched as Mac engaged the thrusters. Through the viewport, Jack watched as the docking clamps strained and then snapped under the force of their unauthorized departure. The horizon shot out of the bay like a cork from a bottle, leaving Nexus 6 and its market of miseries behind. Only then did Jack notice the strange sensation washing over him. A warmth spreading through his body, his heart racing beyond what adrenaline alone could explain. The air in the corridor seemed thick, almost sweet. He turned to the sisters, who were huddled together, panting from exertion. Their silver markings still glowed faintly, and their eyes remained dilated. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice coming out huskier than intended. Laura stepped forward, swaying slightly. "Pheromones, still active. Take time to stop." "Pheromones?" Jack repeated, suddenly understanding the strange feelings coursing through him. "You mean the thing you did to distract the guards?" Alira nodded, her chest rising and falling rapidly. "Defense mechanism for predators." "Makes them confuse," Mita added. "Easy to escape." Jack swallowed hard, trying to focus. "And what does it do to humans?" The sisters exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. Laura's lips curved into a smile that sent a jolt through Jack's system. "Different for humans," she said softly. "Not confusion, attraction." The corridor suddenly felt very small, the air electric between them. Jack took a deliberate step back, trying to clear his head. "I should get this regulator installed," he said, holding up the stolen part, "before we all suffocate." "We help," Laura offered, moving closer. Jack shook his head. "No, you three should rest. You've been through a lot." "Not tired," Alira insisted, her yellow eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. Before Jack could respond, the ship's intercom crackled. "Captain," it was Mac. "We've got company. 3 patrol ships on our tail. Looks like we pissed off the market authorities." Reality crashed back. "I'll be right there." He turned to the sisters. "The crew quarters are down that corridor. Find empty rooms and get settled. We'll talk later." As Jack hurried toward the bridge, he could feel their eyes following him, the lingering effect of their pheromones making his skin tingle with awareness. The bridge was a flurry of activity when he arrived. Mac, a burly man with a thick beard and grease-stained coveralls, was hunched over the engineering console. Talia, his pilot, had her hands dancing across the navigation controls. "What the hell did you do down there, Captain?" Talia asked without looking up. "Half the station's security force is after us." "Long story," Jack replied, tossing the regulator to Mac. "Get that installed. Priority 1. "And what about them?" Talia jerked her head toward the rear of the ship. "Refugees. I bought them." "You what?" Mac looked up from the regulator, eyes wide. "They were being sold as meat," Jack said flatly. "I wasn't going to leave them there." Talia whistled low. "Always the hero, eh, Captain?" So that's where our credits went. "Can we outrun the patrols?" Jack asked, changing the subject. "Maybe," Talia replied. "But they're gaining. We need a distraction or a miracle." Jack's mind raced. The Horizon was a trading vessel, not a warship. They had minimal weapons and defenses. What they needed was... "Captain?" Laura's voice came from the bridge entrance. All 3 sisters stood there, their silver markings pulsing gently. "I told you to rest," Jack said, more sharply than he intended. "We help," Laura insisted. "Ship needs energy. We provide." Max snorted. "Unless they can turn into batteries, I don't see how." "Philidians channel energy," Alira interrupted. "Connect to systems. Boost power." Jack stared at them. "You can interface with our ship?" Mita nodded. "Through touch. Short time only. Draining." Talia shot Jack a skeptical look. "Captain, we don't know anything about them or their abilities." "We're out of options," Jack replied. He turned to the sisters. "What do you need?" "Access to engine core," Laura said. "Direct contact." Max shook his head. "That's the most sensitive part of the ship. If they damage it..." "They won't," Jack said, with a certainty he couldn't explain. Perhaps it was the pheromones affecting his judgment, or perhaps it was something deeper, an instinctive trust in these beings he'd risked everything to save. The engine room was a cathedral of machinery, the core pulsing with blue energy at its center. The sisters approached it reverently, their own blue skin seeming to resonate with its glow. "Need quiet," Laura instructed. "Need focus." Jack nodded to Mac and Talia. Give them space. As the three humans stepped back, the Felideans formed a circle around the engine core. Their hands linked, and they began a soft, melodic humming that seemed to vibrate at the same frequency as the ship's engines. The effect was immediate. The core's glow intensified, and the horizon surged forward with newfound power. On the monitoring screens, Jack watched as the distance between them and the pursuit vessels began to widen. But it was the sisters themselves that truly captivated him. Their bodies arched gracefully, silver markings blazing like starlight against their blue skin. Their faces were transformed by expressions of ecstasy that made Jack's mouth go dry. "Captain," Talia whispered beside him, her voice strained. "I'm feeling strange." Jack nodded, not trusting himself to speak. The pheromones were affecting all of them now, filling the engine room with an intoxicating atmosphere. After several minutes, the sisters broke their circle, swaying with exhaustion. Jack rushed forward to catch Lura as she stumbled, her body burning hot against his. "Did it work?" she asked breathlessly. "Yes," Jack confirmed, checking the screens. "We've lost them." Relief washed over the Felideans' faces, quickly followed by something else. A look of hunger that had nothing to do with food. "Need rest now," Lura murmured, her lips close to Jack's ear. "Need recovery?" The implication in her tone was unmistakable. Jack looked to Mac and Talia, who were both flushed and avoiding eye contact with each other. "Get the regulator installed," Jack ordered Mac. "Talia, set course for the Vega outpost. I'll help our guests get settled." As he led the sisters from the engine room, Jack knew he was crossing a line. But with their pheromones clouding his judgment and their grateful eyes fixed on him, he found it increasingly difficult to remember why that line had seemed so important in the first place. The hours following their escape passed in a blur for Jack. After helping the exhausted Felidean sisters to their quarters, he'd spent time with each of them, comforting and connecting in ways that transcended mere physical attraction. Their cultural understanding of gratitude and bonding was unlike anything he'd experienced with human women, direct, unashamed, and deeply spiritual. When Jack finally emerged from Lura's quarters the next morning, he found his first officer, Commander Rex Donovan, waiting in the corridor with arms crossed and a thunderous expression on his face. "We need to talk," Rex said flatly. Jack straightened his rumpled uniform. "Can it wait? I need to check our course to Vega." "That's part of what we need to discuss." Rex gestured toward the briefing room. "Now, Captain." Inside, Rex closed the door and turned to face Jack. "What the hell are you doing?" "You'll have to be more specific," Jack replied, though he knew exactly what Rex meant. "Those aliens, the blue cat women, you've been with them all night." Jack's jaw tightened. "My personal life isn't your concern, Commander. It is when it affects this ship and this crew." Rex leaned forward. "Those pheromones they're pumping out, they're messing with your head, with all our heads. Talia nearly crashed us into an asteroid field because she couldn't concentrate. Mac's been in the shower for an hour trying to cool down." "The effects are temporary," Jack said defensively. "Are they? Or is that what you want to believe?" Rex's voice softened slightly. "Look, I get it. They're exotic, they're grateful, and they've got some kind of biochemical love potion working for them. But you're not thinking clearly." Jack ran a hand through his hair. "You don't understand what they've been through, what they were destined for. I understand that you spent our last credits on them, stole a vital ship component, and now we're fugitives," Rex countered. "And I understand that ever since they came aboard, you haven't been the same Jack Harlow I've served with for 5 years." Before Jack could respond, the ship's alarm blared. Talia's voice came over the intercom. "Captain to the bridge. We've got a situation." Jack and Rex exchanged glances before rushing out. On the bridge, Talia was frantically working the controls while Mac hovered over the engineering station. "What's happening?" Jack demanded. "We're being tracked," Mac explained. "There's a signal coming from somewhere on the ship, leading market enforcers right to us." The regulator, Jack realized. They must have planted a tracker on it. "That's not all," Talia added grimly. "We're approaching Vega Outpost, but I'm picking up unusual comm traffic. Lots of references to special merchandise recovery and human thieves." Jack's blood ran cold. "They've warned the outpost about us." "Worse," Rex said, studying the communications. "I think the outpost is run by the same consortium that operates the black market. We're flying straight into a trap. As if on cue, the Philidian sisters entered the bridge. They'd been given fresh clothes from the ship's stores, simple jumpsuits that hugged their slender forms. Their silver markings were dormant now, but their presence still commanded attention. "Danger!" Laura stated rather than asked. "We sense it." Rex shot Jack a pointed look. "They can sense things now?" "A Philidian sensitive to threats," Alira explained. "Part of survival instinct." Mita moved to the viewport, her ears twitching. Many ships at outpost, waiting. Jack joined her, noting the unusual number of vessels surrounding the Vega outpost. They weren't civilian traders. They were armed interceptors. "We need to change course," Jack decided. "Find somewhere else to resupply." "No time," Mac interrupted. "The tracker's signal is getting stronger. They're closing in from behind and the outpost has ships ready to box us in. We're trapped." Rex stepped closer to Jack, lowering his voice. "This is what I was talking about. These females have brought nothing but trouble. They're compromising your judgment." Laura's sensitive ears caught his words. Her yellow eyes narrowed as she approached Rex. "You think we manipulate?" she asked, her musical voice carrying an edge. "Think we control with pheromones?" "The evidence speaks for itself," Rex replied coolly. "Pheromones only enhance what already exists," Laura countered. "Cannot create feelings from nothing." Alira nodded in agreement. "Human males resistant to control, not like other species." "That's why Philidians value humans," Mita added. "Strong-willed, make choices even with pheromones." Jack felt a strange pride at their words, but Rex remained unconvinced. "Convenient explanation," he muttered. "Enough," Jack interrupted. "We can debate alien biochemistry later. Right now, we need to focus on not getting captured or killed." Talia looked up from her console. "We could try the Kelvin belt. The asteroid field might mask our signature and give us time to remove the tracker." "Too risky," Rex argued. "One wrong move in those rocks, and we're space dust." Jack studied the tactical display, weighing their options. The market enforcers were closing from behind, while the outpost had ships positioned to intercept them. They were outnumbered and outgunned. Unless... "The sisters boosted our engines before," Jack said slowly. "Could they do it again? Give us enough speed to break through the blockade?" Laura exchanged glances with her siblings. "Possible, but dangerous, as second channeling so soon could harm us." "And what about the tracker?" Rex asked. "Even if we break through, they'll just follow us." Mita stepped forward. "We can find tracker. Sense foreign energy." "I'll go with her," Mac volunteered, surprising everyone. When they stared at him, he shrugged. "What?" "I'm the engineer. If there's something weird on my ship, I want to know about it." Jack nodded. "Do it. Rex, prepare the weapon systems. We might need to fight our way out. Talia, plot a course through the thinnest part of their blockade." As the crew dispersed to their task, Laura lingered beside Jack. Her fingers brushed his arm, sending a jolt of electricity through him that had nothing to do with pheromones. "You trust us," she said softly, despite his warnings. Jack covered her hand with his own. "You saved us once. You'll do it again." "And after?" she asked, her yellow eyes searching his. "When danger passes? What then?" It was the question Jack had been avoiding since their night together. What future could there be for a human captain and 3 alien females rescued from a meat market? "We'll figure it out," he promised. "Together." The ship's proximity alarm cut off any further conversation. On the view screen, the first of the interceptors came into visual range, weapons ports glowing with deadly intent. The trap was closing, and they were running out of time. "Found it!" Mac's triumphant voice crackled over the intercom. "The tracker was embedded in the regulator's power cell." Jack leaned toward the comm. "Can you disable it without damaging the regulator?" "Already did, but there's something else." Mac's voice dropped. "You need to come see this, Captain. Engineering bay, now!" Jack exchanged glances with Laura, who had remained by his side on the bridge. "Keep preparing for the energy channeling," he told her. "I'll be right back." In the engineering bay, Jack found Mac and Mita huddled over a workbench. Between them lay the dismantled tracker, a sophisticated device no larger than a thumbnail. "What am I looking at?" Jack asked. Mac pointed to a tiny reservoir in the center of the device. This isn't just a tracker, it's a sampler. A what? It's been collecting biological data, Mac explained. Specifically, it was programmed to detect and analyze Felidien blood. Jack's brow furrowed. Why would they care about their blood? Mita's ears flattened against her head. They know what we are. And what exactly are you? Jack asked, a chill running down his spine. Mita looked away, her slender fingers tracing patterns on the workbench. Our blood, special, contains compound called Neurolink. Gives abilities to those who consume. What kind of abilities? Temporary telepathy, she whispered. Mind reading, thought control. Very valuable to certain species. Jack felt his stomach turn. The meat market suddenly made horrific sense. The Felidians weren't being sold as simple exotic food. They were being sold as a drug, a way for the galaxy's elite to gain psychic powers through consumption. That's why the price was so high, he realized. That's why they're hunting us so aggressively. Mac nodded grimly. And it gets worse. This device wasn't just tracking, it was transmitting data. They know exactly what they're chasing now. The ship shuddered as the first warning shots from the interceptors streaked past their hull. We're out of time, Jack said. Mac, get back to the engine room. We're going with the energy channeling plan. As they rushed back through the corridors, Mita caught Jack's arm. There's more you should know, she said urgently. About us, about bonding. Can it wait? She shook her head. When we joined with you last night, there was exchange. Our blood, your blood. Jack stopped short. What are you saying? Human males compatible with Felidian females? When we mate, small amount of Neurolink transfers. Permanent bond forms. Jack's mind reeled. Are you telling me I have this Neurolink compound in me now? Small amount, growing stronger with each joining. Her yellow eyes searched his face. You feel it already, yes? The connection? Knowing our thoughts sometimes? Now that she mentioned it, Jack had experienced moments of unusual clarity, brief flashes of intuition about what the sisters were thinking or feeling. He'd attributed it to their pheromones or his growing emotional attachment. What does this mean for me or for us? Means you protected in way you not know, Mita said. Means we truly bonded. Family now. Another blast rocked the ship, this one closer. The intercom blared with Rex's voice. Captain, we need you on the bridge. They're closing in. Jack and Mita sprinted the rest of the way. On the bridge, chaos reigned. The tactical display showed 5 interceptors in pursuit, with the outpost's security vessels moving to cut off their escape route. Status, Jack demanded. Shields at 70%, Rex reported. We've got maybe 2 minutes before they're in tractor beam range. Lura and Alira stood by the engine control station, their silver markings already beginning to glow in preparation for the energy channeling. Ready? Jack asked them. Lura nodded, but must tell you, second channeling more dangerous than first. It may cause changes. What kind of changes? Bond will strengthen, Alira explained. All of us connected more deeply. Thoughts shared, feelings intensified. Rex shot Jack a warning look. Captain, if what they're saying is true, we don't have a choice, Jack cut him off. It's this or capture. He turned to Talia. Plot a course through that gap in their formation. The moment the sisters boost our power, punch it. The Felidians formed their circle, hands linked, and began their melodic humming. The effect was even more dramatic than before. Their silver markings blazed like supernovas, and the ship's engines roared with sudden power. Jack felt it this time, a rush of foreign sensations flooding his mind. Fragments of the sisters' thoughts and memories washed over him. Their childhood on a lush blue world, their capture by smugglers, the terror of the cage, and their overwhelming gratitude toward him. But there was something else too, a deeper understanding of their culture and biology. Felidians formed lifelong bonds with their mates, sharing a psychic connection that transcended physical intimacy. What had happened between them wasn't casual or merely physical. It was, by their standards, a marriage. The horizon shot forward with impossible speed. threading the needle between two interceptors. Weapons fire blazed around them, but Talia's piloting and the sisters' power boost carried them through. "It's working," Max shouted over the comm. "We're breaking free." On the view screen, the interceptors fell behind, unable to match their enhanced velocity. The outpost grew smaller as they hurtled away from the trap. But the sisters were paying a price. Their bodies trembled with the strain, silver markings flickering erratically. Laura was the first to collapse, breaking the circle. Alira and Mita followed seconds later. Jack caught Laura as she fell, cradling her against his chest. Her skin burned with fever, her breathing shallow. "Laura, stay with me!" Her eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly. "Did it work?" "Yes," Jack assured her. "We're safe. You saved us again." A weak smile curved her lips. "Good. Worth it." Rex approached, his expression conflicted as he looked at the exhausted Feladians. "Captain, we're clear of immediate danger, but those ships will regroup. And now we know why they want these females so badly." "We're not giving them back," Jack said firmly. "I'm not suggesting that," Rex replied. "But we need a plan. Somewhere to go where they won't find us. And we need to understand exactly what's happening with this blood bond thing." Jack nodded, feeling the strange, new connection to the sisters pulsing in his mind. It wasn't controlling him. Rex was wrong about that, but it had changed him in ways he was only beginning to comprehend. "First, we get them to medical," Jack ordered. "Then we find somewhere to lay low while they recover." As he carried Laura toward the medbay, with Mac and Talia helping Alira and Mita, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they'd crossed a point of no return. The hunt for the Feladians wasn't just about exotic meat anymore. It was about power, control, and a biological secret that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. And somehow he'd placed himself and his crew right in the middle of it all. 3 days after their narrow escape, Jack sat beside Laura in the medbay, holding her slender blue hand as Dr. Eleanor Carson ran a medical scanner over her abdomen. The doctor's eyes widened as she studied the readout. "Well," Eleanor said, setting the scanner down, "I've never seen anything quite like this, but the readings are clear. Congratulations, Captain. You're going to be a father." Jack's world tilted on its axis. That's impossible. We've only been together for days." Laura squeezed his hand, her yellow eyes warm with affection. "Feladian gestation different from human. Bond accelerates process, creates life quickly when compatible." "And it's not just Laura," Eleanor added, gesturing to the other examination beds where Alira and Mita rested. "All 3 sisters are pregnant with your children, Captain." Jack's jaw dropped. "All 3? Alira smiled shyly from her bed. "Is our way. Sisters share bond, share mate, share offspring. Stronger family unit this way," Mita explained. "Children grow together, protected by all." Jack ran a hand through his hair, struggling to process this information. In less than a week, he'd gone from a solitary ship captain to a bonded mate with 3 pregnant partners. "The fetuses are developing at an accelerated rate," Eleanor continued, professional despite her obvious fascination. "Based on these readings, you'll be holding your children in about 2 months, not 9. "Hybrid offspring special," Laura said, placing Jack's hand on her still flat stomach. "First of kind, human strength, Feladian gifts." Rex cleared his throat from the doorway. Jack hadn't even noticed him enter. "Captain, we need to talk, in private." Jack reluctantly left the sisters and followed Rex to the corridor outside. "I assume you heard?" Jack asked. Rex nodded grimly. "The whole crew knows. Hard to keep secrets on a ship this size." He lowered his voice. "But that's not why I'm here. We've detected something following us, something that shouldn't be possible." "The Market Consortium?" "Worse, it's a single ship moving faster than anything I've ever seen, and it's homing in on us with impossible precision, despite our scrambled signature." Jack felt a chill. "How?" "I think," Rex hesitated, "I think someone's tracking the sisters through their minds." Jack remembered what Mita had told him about the Neuralink compound in Feladian blood granting telepathic abilities. The consortium leader? Probably, and if he's been consuming Feladian blood for years. His abilities would be powerful, Jack finished. How long until he reaches us? At current speeds, less than 12 hours. Jack cursed under his breath. They were still 3 days from the nearest Terran Alliance outpost where they might find protection. There's more, Rex added. I've been researching Feladians in the ship's database. Their pregnancies emit a unique psionic signature, like a beacon to others of their kind. With 3 pregnant females aboard, we're lighting up the psychic landscape like a supernova, Jack realized. He returned to the med bay where the sisters were sitting up in their beds, ears twitching nervously. They'd already sensed something was wrong. He comes, Lura said simply. The Devourer. The who? Grath Mal, Alira explained, her voice trembling. Consortium leader, has consumed hundreds of our kind over decades. Mita nodded solemnly. His mind power very strong now. Can reach across stars, feel thoughts, control weak minds. Can he control you? Jack asked, suddenly concerned. Lura shook her head. Bond with you protects us. Human mind's different, resistant to control. Why he hates humans so much. And why he particularly hates you now, Eleanor added, checking the sister's vital signs. You've taken what he considers his property and created something he can never have. Natural-born telepaths. Jack's protective instincts flared. These weren't just refugees he'd saved from a meat market anymore. They were his family, his mates and the mothers of his unborn children. We need a plan, he said. Something he won't expect. Lura's eyes suddenly widened, her hand flying to her abdomen. Jack, feel! He placed his hand on her stomach and gasped. Through their bond, he could sense not just Lura's thoughts, but a tiny new consciousness, primitive, yet undeniably present and powerful. The babies, he whispered. I can feel them. They grow fast, Alira said, smiling despite the danger. Already developing mental abilities. Stronger than pure Feladian, Mita added. Human resilience, Feladian gifts. Jack's mind raced. If he could sense the developing consciousness of his unborn children, and they were already exhibiting mental abilities. I have an idea, he said slowly, but it's risky, and I'll need all of you to trust me completely. The sisters exchanged glances, then nodded in unison. We trust, Laura said simply. Jack turned to Eleanor. How much do you know about psychic shielding techniques? Enough to know they're mostly theoretical, the doctor replied, but I did a rotation on Psion 9 during my residency. They were experimenting with psionic dampening fields. Could you rig something similar here? Not to block the sisters' abilities entirely, but to redirect them? Eleanor considered this. Maybe. With Mac's help, we might be able to modify the ship's EM field generators. Do it, Jack ordered. And Rex, set course for the Cygnus Nebula. Rex blinked in surprise. The nebula? That's a navigational nightmare. We could get lost in there for weeks. Exactly, Jack said. It's also filled with ionized gas that plays havoc with sensors and communications. If we can't outrun this Grath Mal, we'll outthink him. As the crew dispersed to carry out his orders, Jack returned to Laura's side. She looked up at him with complete trust in her yellow eyes. You have planned to protect our children, she said. It wasn't a question. Jack nodded, gently caressing her cheek. I was ready to die for you when all I knew was that you were being sold as meat. Now that you're carrying my children, now that we're bonded, there's nothing I wouldn't do to keep you safe. Laura purred softly, a sound of contentment despite their dire circumstances. Human males, so fierce when protecting family. Is that unusual among your people? Feladian males, different, Alira explained from her bed. Not form deep bonds, provide genetic material only. Why females value human mates so highly, Mita added. Human males stay, protect, love. Jack felt a surge of pride at their words. Humanity's protective instincts, something he'd always taken for granted, were apparently rare and precious in the wider galaxy. As he looked at the 3 beautiful blue-skinned females carrying his children, Jack knew with absolute certainty that he would defeat this devourer. Not just for the sisters, but for the new hybrid species they were creating together. A bridge between 2 worlds that might someday change the galaxy. But first, they had to survive the next 12 hours. The Cygnus Nebula loomed before them, a vast swirling cloud of ionized gases and stellar dust that painted the view screen in vibrant purples and blues. Under different circumstances, Jack might have appreciated its beauty. Now he saw only sanctuary. "Take us in," he ordered Talia. "Full stealth mode." The horizon glided into the nebula's outer reaches, its modified shields deflecting the corrosive particles that would normally strip a ship's hull. Behind them, long-range sensors detected Grath Mal's vessel closing fast, a sleek, predatory craft that seemed to devour the distance between them. In the medbay, now converted into a makeshift command center, Jack stood surrounded by his crew and the Palladian sisters. Eleanor and Mac had successfully modified the ship's EM field generators, creating a bubble of psionic redirection around the horizon. "The dampening field is active," Eleanor reported. "It won't block their abilities, but it should scatter the psychic signature enough to confuse anyone tracking them." Lura approached Jack, her movements graceful despite her condition. All three sisters now showed visible signs of their pregnancies, their abdomens gently rounded beneath their jumpsuits. "There is something we must tell you," she said, her musical voice serious. "Something we kept hidden." Jack raised an eyebrow. "More secrets?" "Not secret from you," Alira clarified. "Secret from those who would hunt us." Mita nodded. "We are not ordinary Philitians. We are Tri-heirs." "Tri-heirs," Rex repeated. "What does that mean?" "Royal bloodline," Lura explained. "Three sisters born together. Very rare, destined to lead." Jack's mind reeled. "You're royalty? Actual princesses?" "More than princesses," Alira said. "We are, how you say, living keys. Our combined presence activates ancient technology," Mita added. "Can call defenders." Jack exchanged glances with Rex. "Defenders?" Lura placed her hand on Jack's chest over his heart. "Hidden fleet, Palladian resistance, fighting consortium for generations, waiting for Tri-heirs to unite and call them." "And you can do that? Call this fleet?" "Yes," all three sisters answered in unison. "But need safe place, need focus." Jack's tactical mind immediately grasped the potential. "That's why you were so valuable, not just for your blood, but for what you represent." "Grath Mal knows this," Lura confirmed. "Wants to consume us, gain our power, control resistance himself." The ship shuddered as they penetrated deeper into the nebula. Static crackled across the communication system, the ionized particles interfering with signals. "Perfect." "How long would it take to call these defenders?" Jack asked. "Not long," Alira replied, "but must broadcast signal, strong signal." Rex frowned. "If we broadcast anything, Grath Mal will find us instantly." "That's exactly what we want," Jack said, a plan forming in his mind. "We're not just running anymore. We're setting a trap." He turned to Mac. "Prepare a data package, everything we have on the consortium, the meat markets, the Palladian blood trade, Grath Mal's atrocities. Add visual evidence from our encounter at Nexus 6. "What are you planning, Captain?" Talia asked. "A galaxy-wide broadcast," Jack replied. "We're going to expose everything while simultaneously calling the Palladian resistance. When Grath Mal comes for us, and he will, he'll find himself caught between us and them." "And the Terran Alliance," Rex added, catching on. "Once this evidence goes public, they'll have to respond. The treaty violations alone?" Jack nodded. "Exactly. We turn a hunt into a war, one that Grath Mal can't win." The crew dispersed to their stations, preparing for what would likely be the fight of their lives. Jack remained with the sisters, who looked at him with a mixture of hope and concern. "Dangerous plan," Laura said softly. "Risk much for us." Jack took her hands in his. "Not just for you, for our children, for the future." Alira stepped closer, her yellow eyes bright. "Human males, so brave." "So stubborn," Mita added with affection. Jack smiled. "It's what we do, especially for family." The sisters surrounded him, their bodies warm against his, their purrs of contentment vibrating through his chest. Through their bond, he could feel their love, their trust, and something else, a fierce determination that matched his own. "Ready?" he asked. They nodded in unison. 2 hours later, the horizon hovered in a relatively clear pocket within the nebula. The sisters sat in a triangle formation on the bridge, their silver markings glowing intensely as they joined hands. "Broadcast ready," Mac reported. "Weapons hot," Rex added, "though I don't know how much good they'll do against Grathmal's ship." Jack took a deep breath. "Ladies, whenever you're ready." The sisters began their melodic humming, but this time it was different. Deeper, more resonant, almost architectural in its complexity. Their silver markings blazed like supernovas, and through his bond with them, Jack felt a surge of power unlike anything he'd experienced before. "Now, Mac," he ordered. The broadcast went out, a powerful signal that cut through the nebula's interference, carrying both the damning evidence against the consortium and the Palladian royal summons. Almost immediately, sensors detected Grathmal's ship changing course, homing in on their position. "He took the bait," Talia announced. "ETA 3 minutes. "And he's not alone," Rex added grimly. 2 more consortium vessels just entered the nebula. Jack had expected this. "Hold position. Keep broadcasting." The sisters' humming intensified, their bodies now hovering several inches above the deck, suspended by some unseen force. Through the view screen, Jack watched as the gases of the nebula began to shift and swirl in unnatural patterns. "Captain," Talia called, her voice tight with tension, "I'm detecting multiple warp signatures at the edge of the nebula. A lot of them." "Terran Alliance?" Rex asked hopefully. "Negative, configuration unknown, but they're moving fast." Jack smiled. "The Resistance?" Grathmal's ship emerged from the swirling gases, a massive black vessel bristling with weapons. It immediately opened fire, energy beams slicing through the nebula toward the horizon. "Evasive maneuvers!" Jack shouted. Talia's hands danced across the controls and the horizon rolled away from the assault. But they couldn't outrun Grathmal forever, not in these conditions. Just as a second volley was about to hit them, a barrage of energy torpedoes streaked past the horizon and slammed into Grathmal's ship. Through the dissipating energy cloud, Jack saw them. Dozens of sleek blue-hulled vessels with distinctive feline designs etched into their hulls. The Palladian resistance had arrived. "We're being hailed," Mac reported in disbelief, "by the Terran Alliance flagship Intrepid." Jack's jaw dropped. "Put them through." The stern face of Admiral Allison Christensen appeared on screen. "Captain Harlow, your broadcast reached us, and the Alliance is deploying a task force to apprehend all consortium members involved in these atrocities." "Admiral," Jack acknowledged, relief washing over him, "your timing is impeccable." "The evidence you provided is disturbing," Christensen continued. "Violations of multiple interspecies treaties. The Alliance Council is convening an emergency session." Her eyes shifted to the Palladian sisters, who had returned to normal, though their markings still glowed faintly. "I see the rumors of the Tri-Air's rescue are true." "You knew about them?" Jack asked, surprised. "We've been monitoring consortium activities for months. There were whispers about Royal Palladians being sold on the black market, but nothing concrete until your broadcast." On the tactical display, Jack watched as Alliance vessels and Palladian ships coordinated their attack on the consortium forces. Grathmal's ship was already heavily damaged, attempting to retreat. "He's getting away," Rex noted. "No," Lura said with quiet certainty. "He is not." As if responding to her words, a massive Palladian vessel decloaked directly in Grathmal's path. A single powerful beam lanced out, disabling the consortium leader's engines. "The Devourer is contained," a new voice announced over the comm. A regal Palladian male appeared on screen beside Admiral Christensen. "I am High Commander Thorne of the Palladian Resistance. We owe you a great debt, Captain Harlow." Jack inclined his head. "I was just trying to save innocent lives." "You did far more," Thorne replied. "You reunited our people with our Tri-Airs. You have given us hope and heirs to continue our line." 6 months later, Jack stood on the observation deck of New Felida, a joint human-Palladian colony established on a lush moon orbiting a gas giant in Terran Alliance space. Below, the first settlement was taking shape, a harmonious blend of human and Palladian architecture. Behind him, the door slid open, Lura entered, cradling a small blue-skinned infant with Jack's dark hair and a mix of human and Felideian features. Alira and Mita followed, each holding similar bundles. The children wanted their father, Lura said, her yellow eyes warm with love. Jack took his son from Lura's arms, marveling at the tiny being who gurgled happily at the sight of him. Through their bond, he could already sense the child's developing mind, bright, curious, and powerful. The council meeting went well, Alira asked, shifting her daughter to her other arm. Jack nodded. The alliance between humans and Felideians is official, and Grethmal's trial begins next week. And consortium? Mita inquired. Dismantled. The evidence we broadcast ensured that. No more meat markets, no more blood trade. Lura leaned against him, purring contentedly. All because you could not walk past Cage that day. Jack smiled, looking at his improbable family, 3 beautiful alien females who had once been destined for slaughter, now mothers to the first generation of a new species. And all because he'd spent his last credits to save them. Best purchase I ever made, he said, kissing Lura softly as their children. The future of 2 worlds, cooed in perfect harmony.